The film story is about three main characters. Each one lives in a different world and life. None of them knows the other. They don't know that fate will make them all collide at one point. This point will turn their lives upside down. The first main character and the story's heroine is a mother named Christina. She was telling her support group that she was once horribly addicted to drugs because of her family. She managed to quit all these habits. She was very grateful to her husband. She saw him as the reason for saving her. At the same time, we see her husband Michael hanging out with their daughters. The second main character is a man named Jack. Jack works at a transportation company. Before that, he did many illegal things, but now he's become a faithful and religious man. He even tried to convince a young man going down the wrong path to choose God's way. The third and final main character is Paul. Paul's heart was completely damaged. He needed a heart transplant urgently. Paul is married to a woman named Mary. Mary was very afraid that Paul might not find a suitable heart for the transplant. Her heart was breaking for him because she wanted to spend the rest of her life with him and grow their family. Out of despair for Paul's condition, she went to the doctor and asked if she could get pregnant through artificial insemination. The doctor, after reviewing Mary's medical history, discovered she had an abortion before. He told her they needed to perform a procedure on her first before they could do the insemination. We return to Paul, who, despite his critical health condition that doesn't allow smoking at all, was still smoking. His wife got very angry about this. In the next scene, we see Jack with his boss at work. The boss tells him that with his old criminal record, they can't keep him in the job. The boss had told Jack he needed to cover all the tattoos on his body. But the problem was Jack had a tattoo on his face and couldn't cover it. Jack felt very frustrated and left work upset. When he got home, his mood was really bad. At home, he has his wife, son, and daughter. He found his son hitting his sister. The daughter complained to him while crying. Jack went to his son and told him, if someone hits you on one cheek, offer the other. He started encouraging his son to hit his sister again. Everyone in the house was very scared of his strange behavior. Then we see Paul and his wife Mary talking. Mary had decided to go back to work. She hired a nurse to take care of Paul. Paul told her, I sent her away. She made me feel disabled. Mary got very angry and said, I can't keep taking care of you all the time. Paul tried to make up with her and got close to kiss her, but Mary refused. She said she needed his sample. This meant she was determined about the artificial insemination. Paul had to go to the hospital to provide the sample. Paul didn't like the idea, but agreed for Mary's sake. We return to Christina. One night, she's coming back home. She gets a call telling her that her husband and both daughters were in an accident. She was extremely shocked and terrified. At the exact same time, we see Paul and Mary at the hospital for the sample issue. The doctor was talking to Paul, saying, there's a high chance you won't live to see this child. Are you sure you still want to do this? Paul was doing all this only for Mary's sake. Then we see Jack coming back home in a state of shock. He stayed in the car, not wanting to get out. His wife came out to see what was wrong. He told her, I just hit a man and his two daughters while they were crossing the street. I couldn't control the car. His wife tried to calm him and told him to stay quiet. She went to the accident scene to check the news. She asked at the hospital and learned everything from the police. She was relieved that no one knew anything about Jack. At the hospital, the doctors were talking to Christina. They told her both her daughters died and her husband was in critical condition with severe brain bleeding. 2 days later, Christina's husband was no longer responding to anything. The doctor told her, your husband is clinically dead. There's nothing we can do, but you can save another person's life. They were talking about giving her husband Michael's heart to Paul. Christina was crying uncontrollably, but eventually composed herself and agreed. In the middle of the night, Paul and Mary got a call and rushed to the hospital. The heart transplant was successful. Paul felt immense gratitude for getting a heart. He told the doctor he wanted to talk to the donor's family. The doctor said, you can't contact them like that, but you can send them a thank you letter. Paul wasn't the type to listen. He hired a private investigator to find out who the donor's family was. When he learned everything about Christina, he felt deep sorrow for her. He knew what she was doing and where she was going. One day, Christina was at the swimming pool. Paul approached her and asked, is your leg injured? You swim like you're limping a bit. He gave her some tips to swim better. Later, he saw her eating alone and asked, can I sit with you? Christina wasn't interested. Paul was about to leave but came back and said, by the way, eating alone isn't good for your kidneys. Christina laughed a little but still wasn't interested. After her husband's death, Christina was psychologically devastated. She thought about calling her old dealer to buy drugs, but changed her mind at the last moment. On the other side, the police still hadn't found out anything about Jack, but he was feeling overwhelming guilt. He told his wife, "I have to turn myself into the police." His wife begged him, saying, "Please don't do this. No one knows anything about you. Your real responsibility is to us, me and your kids. We need you." After Paul's successful surgery, Mary was overjoyed. She threw a party and invited all their friends. At the party, she announced they would start trying for a baby. Everyone was excited for them. That night, Paul talked to Mary and said, "Maybe we should think more about this baby decision." We returned to Jack, who was so consumed by guilt, he couldn't bear it anymore. Despite his wife trying to stop him, he turned himself in to the police. At Christina's husband's funeral, many people were there. Christina's friend knew about Jack and tried to convince her to file a lawsuit against him. Christina didn't want to do anything like that. Her friend pressured her and cried, saying, "Anything I do won't bring back my husband and daughters. What's the point of all this?" The next day, Paul and Mary went to the doctor. Paul asked the doctor, "What are Mary's chances of getting pregnant?" The doctor said, because she had an abortion before, her chances this time are very low. Paul didn't know anything about the abortion. Mary had hidden it from him. He got very angry and said, "We've been together for years, and there's nothing real between us anymore." Enough pretending. The truth was Mary came back to Paul when she saw his health condition. She told him, "No one else would have come back to you." He replied, "You only came back because you were alone." Those words hurt her deeply, and she started crying. Paul felt guilty and hugged her. Then we see Jack, who turned himself in prison. His pastor visited him. Jack started doubting his faith, saying to himself, "If God really exists, he wouldn't let innocent people die by my hands." So Jack tried to end his life in prison, but failed. One night, Christina was feeling very suffocated. She went to a nightclub and bought drugs. Paul, who wanted to know more about her, was following and watching her. He saw her there. Christina got extremely drunk, so much that when she left, she couldn't drive her car and crashed it lightly. Paul went to help her. The bar staff wouldn't let her drive in that state. Paul took the keys from Christina and told the bar, "I'm her friend. I'll drive her home." He drove her home, left her sleeping in the car, and walked away. We returned to Jack. His wife visited him in prison and said, "We're fighting for you in court. You didn't do this on purpose. No matter how high the cost, it doesn't matter." A week passes. Christina was at her swimming lesson. Paul went to her again. It was raining, and she was waiting for a taxi. Paul said, "Can I give you a ride?" She refused. He said, "I'm the one who drove you home from a nightclub a week ago." This time she agreed. He asked her to have lunch with him, saying his usual line, "You'll eat alone, and eating alone isn't good for your kidneys." This time she laughed and agreed. On his way home, Paul suddenly started vomiting. He consulted the doctor. After some tests, the doctor said, "Your body is starting to reject the new heart. If this continues, you might die within days." The doctor told him he needed to be admitted to the hospital immediately to search for another heart. Paul knew it was impossible to find another heart. He refused to be admitted and said, "If I'm going to die, I'll die free and enjoy my freedom." In the next scene, Jack's wife managed to get him out of prison on bail. Jack didn't want to leave. He wanted to take his punishment for his mistake. When he got home, his children ran to him and hugged him. He felt good to be back with his family. Then we see Christina and Paul on a date. Paul, a mathematician, explained to her how numbers can predict many things. He said, "Numbers tell us the chance of two people meeting in the same place twice at the same time is very low. There must be many reasons behind their meeting." Christina liked his words. The day was nice. She invited him to her house. At her house, Paul saw pictures of Christina's family. Suddenly, he felt pain in his heart again. As he was leaving, he told Christina, "I really admire you. I haven't admired anyone like this in a long time." Christina snapped at him, saying she was married. Paul left. That night, Jack was sitting with his wife. Suddenly, he started crying. He said, "When I hit that man, his daughter was looking at me like she was asking for help. I left her and walked away. Maybe if I had stopped, I could have saved her." The guilt was eating him up. One day, while sitting with his children, his daughter said, "At school, they say my father killed a family. Is that true?" His son confirmed, saying yes, he killed them. Jack felt so guilty that he left immediately. One night, Christina called Paul and asked to meet him. Mary saw the call and got very angry at Paul, saying, "I thought you had changed." He replied, "Neither of us has changed." Then Paul went to Christina. She said, "How could you tell me you admire me like that? You don't know anything about what's happening in my life." She told him everything. Paul hugged her. They were about to get intimate, but Paul stopped her and said, "The heart in my chest is your husband's. I had to tell you before anything happens between us." Christina went crazy and said, "What are you doing here?" She kept hitting him and threw him out of the house. Paul stayed sleeping in his car outside her house all night. In the morning, Christina saw him and asked, "Why did you do all this?" Paul said, "Your husband saved my life. When I learned your story, I felt so sad for you. I wanted to thank you in any way. When I saw you, I couldn't stay away from you." Christina broke down crying. Paul comforted her, and they continued their relationship. A few days later, Paul returned home and found Mary packing her things to leave. He asked, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'll have the procedure, become the mother of your child, and then leave your life." In the next scene, we see Christina searching for more information about the accident. She learned Jack was out of prison. She got very upset and went back to taking drugs. Paul saw her and tried to convince her that what she was doing was wrong. Christina said, "When Jack hit my daughter, she was still alive. If he had stopped and taken her to the hospital, she'd be alive now. He left her and walked away. He's still alive. I want to kill him." She told Paul, "If you really want to help me kill him." She convinced him. Paul found out where Jack was, bought a gun, and went to him. He pointed the gun at him and said, "Let's go to the desert." There, he made him kneel and was about to kill him but couldn't do it. He said, "Leave to the farthest place you can go. I don't want to see your face again." At the same time, Paul's condition worsened. It was clear he would die within days. One night, while sitting with Christina, Jack came to them. Jack said, "You wanted to kill me. Please finish what you started. I can't live with myself anymore." He started urging him to kill him. A fight broke out between Jack and Paul. In the middle of the fight, Christina started hitting Jack and was about to kill him. At that moment, Paul took the gun and shot himself. He only did this to stop Christina from becoming a killer and ruining her life. Christina and Jack immediately forgot their differences. With Jack's help, Christina took Paul to the hospital. Paul needed blood. Christina's blood type was compatible, but when they tested her, the doctor said, "We can't take your blood in this condition. Your blood has traces of drugs, and that's dangerous for the baby." Christina didn't even know she was pregnant. Paul died, but before he died, he gave Christina a reason to live. At first, she couldn't even enter her daughter's room. But in the film's final scene, we see her in their room, looking at their things with new hope in life. We see Jack returning to his family. His wife was very happy for him. At the film's end, we hear Paul's voice as he's dying. He says that when we die, our body loses 21 grams of its weight. He was talking about the weight of the soul. He says he always wondered about the reason for all this pain. But he realized that no matter how bad life is, there are still positive things we can see and live for the happiness that might come our way. With this positive message, the film ends. We'll meet in a new recap. Thanks for watching.